Meeting to order. This is the Austin Mayor's Committee for People with Disabilities, and this is our September meeting. Thank you all for your attendance. I'd like to start with introductions, and since Chip sat up here, we'll start with him on our right, or my right.
Chip Brown with the Maryland Foundation, Commissioner.
Bryson Smith, Concerned Citizen.
Adam Foxberg,
New Commission. Sorry.
Ron Lucy, Old Commissioner.
Norman Speaker, Commissioner with the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation.
Tanya Winters, Commissioner with Travis County Constable Precinct 5. Kathy Keller, Commissioner, Department of Family and Protective Services.
Dolores Gonzalez, City of Austin's Americans with Disabilities Act Coordinator and liaison to the Mayor's Committee for People with Disabilities.
I'm Jesus Ladvisava, the Commissioner. And welcome aboard, Adam, as a new Commissioner. And if you need something to go by, just do what Ron does, and I think you'll be fine.
Okay.
Follow the blind.
So, let's go to approval of minutes. Hopefully everybody had a chance to look over our minutes. Do we have a discussion for minutes? Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I need a motion. Do we have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm following.
So it passes unanimously. I thought you were going to be a contrarian just to be a contrarian to start. And let's go to old business. And I know, we've discussed this quite a bit, but I just wanted to follow up. I know some of us had sent emails to council members that have appointed us, but I just wanted to follow up and make sure that everybody had an opportunity to do so. And I think we had like a template set up where people could just basically copy and paste and forward on.
We use Norman.
Yes. And so if you haven't had the opportunity to do that, please do that. So our commissioner, your council member can get up to speed on what we're proposing or what we're supporting in regards to visitability. And as an update, I believe that has been moved up to November 7th on the council agenda.
Actually, it's been proposed.
Oh, proposed November 7th. So just as an update, but please go ahead and do that if you haven't had the opportunity to do that yet.
I can resend the information.
Yes, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I don't know that we need encouragement, but I'll give it. I got confronted at a nightclub by a fellow that thought he knew what we were talking about, and he was just throwing all this stuff out that we were, all these requirements that the Mayor's Committee was being outrageous, requiring all this stuff, and he was totally misquoting everything about what we're trying to do here. And even though I was correcting him and trying to be very calm about it, he eventually turned away from me and kept on his tirade about how unreasonable all this was, and the $5,000 cost it was going to bring for homes. And
was alcohol involved in this conversation?
There was a little bit of alcohol involved. Yes.
Where did that $5,000 number come from?
Well, actually, that's a number that we talked about like 10 years ago, as when we started all this.
Wow.
Based on our 2008 attempt at this, I recall that the number was $500 for the average cost for including visitability and smart housing construction. So,
well, like everything else in the discussion, it
right.
grew exponentially.
And actually, it's gotten cheaper if you consider that the cost would be included in a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. Mortgage rates are at historic lows or near historic lows, so it's cheaper than ever to do this at today's housing costs.
I had a lot of comfort in the quote-unquote discussion in knowing that Laura Morrison, who appointed me, could answer all of these charges if they were to come up at a meeting, and I hope everybody is visiting this with their council member.
Yeah, and I had a similar instance, not as charged as yours, but how could you support this? And once you explain to folks what we're doing, I think most people tend to get on board. Something else that's interesting is that one of the bigger home builders is deciding to voluntarily meet the visitability requirement moving forward. on a nationwide scale. So I think they realize, they see that that's where the code is going, that's where the requirements are going, and so they've already initiated this to be their standard operating procedure.
Would you name that home builder right now with the cameras rolling, so they can get a big pat on the back from me?
No, not right now, because they haven't formally announced it. They're going through their process of making that announcement. But I know in working with them, their drawings are already reflecting those changes. Okay, well, let's move on to new business, and I think we still don't have our presenter here. So if it's okay with everybody, I'd like to move to citizen communication and allow our citizens to present. And so up first we have Nancy Crowther. Leah Bojo, and council member from the office of council member Chris Riley.
Thank you.
And she's here to talk to us today about creation of a pedestrian advisory council. Thank you for your time.
Yes. Hi, I'm Leah Bojo again, here with Councilmember Chris Riley's office. And I wanted to come and talk to y'all today about an item we've been working on for the last month or so, a pedestrian advisory council. So we have a resolution, which is what's being handed down to you all right now. And I just was hoping to kind of walk through the idea of it with you, bounce it off you all, see if you have any suggestions or questions or anything like that. And then we're planning to post it to the council agenda as early as next week, assuming that makes sense. So if it's okay, I'll just quickly walk through it. Basically, the idea is, there's been a lot of sort of momentum moving toward pedestrian issues, it seems, especially as of late. There is a new organization forming right now called Walk Austin that's going to be weighing in on pedestrian issues. And they are suggesting that we also, in addition to the Walk Austin group, we also form a group called a Pedestrian Advisory Council. And the idea, sort of the difference would be that Walk Austin is I think actually Walk Austin existed a little while back. I don't know if anybody here remembers that, but it did exist a while back. So it'd be that kind of a thing, a nonprofit that can bring speakers and kind of raise awareness in general, but then also have a Pedestrian Advisory Council to weigh in on city decisions. We obviously already have the Urban Transportation Commission, and this is not something that would replace or take any work away from those folks, but it would be an organization that really burrows into pedestrian issues specifically, and then kind of gives that feedback onto the UTC before the items go forward to council. So I kind of lay that general idea out in the resolution, talk about, a lot of cities have pedestrian advisory councils already, which makes it seem like as Austin grows, this might be something for us to consider. And also, I have taken this idea before the Urban Transportation Commission, who had some feedback. The Bicycle Advisory Council, which is a very similar model. We got their feedback, heard about how they think sort of all these organizations should work together. And I also talked to the ADA Access and Sidewalk Task Force to hear what they thought. Everyone seems generally supportive. In that group in particular, and they did discuss the idea of formalizing their relationship with the PAC, sort of with the overall idea that the PAC would incorporate all different perspectives on pedestrian issues. We wanted to make sure that, of course, that ADA access is a big part of that conversation. So that's sort of where we are right now. What this item would do is just ask the city manager to assign a staff liaison. Part of the reason that the Bicycle Advisory Council works so well is because they actually have a staff person in the Neighborhood Connectivity Division, kind of keeping them aware of things that are going on, making sure that their agendas are set, even just getting them a space to meet, that kind of stuff. So we want to do a similar kind of thing. And then also the Urban Transportation Commission expressed interest in actually changing their bylaws to formalize the relationship with the PAC. So we would ask that that staff member also work with the UTC if they're interested in making a change like that.
I have a question. How, typically within the city department, you have a bike and ped program, and is there a thought that eventually something similar gets created to where bike and ped issues are brought together?
Well, it's interesting that you say that because we do have a bike and ped a division in the neighborhood connectivity in public works. So it's down to kind of a few layers, but and they really weigh in a lot on bike issues, and they have a very technical expertise. But what seems to be the case with pedestrian issues is that there's a broader set of departments that are involved in these issues. Like it seems like it's not just neighborhood connectivity. It's really we talk to folks about in urban design. We talk to folks at zoning. We talk to folks about ADA stuff, of course, public works, infrastructure. There's just this sort of wider array of perspectives on the issue. And so that's kind of why we're thinking that this group wouldn't replace any one perspective or any one group, but it would sort of hopefully have representatives from all those perspectives so that we could kind of hear them all balanced together, hear them all working together, and get those folks talking as well. Because sometimes when people come from one perspective, I think they don't realize that there are other perspectives on what makes a pedestrian place good.
For the sake of a pun, are you trying to recreate the bicycle wheel?
Kind of the pedestrian wheel. Yeah. I mean, we don't want to dictate what the bylaws would look like for this organization. That would, of course, be up to them. But it seems like the BAC works really well. They're a really great resource. So that's sort of the starting point for sure.
Ron?
Yeah, will this group fall under the city boards and commission ordinance and have an appointee from each city council member, or will it be more of an ad hoc advisory committee that's not governed by the boards and commission ordinance?
So this would not be an official board or commission, so they would not have to adhere to things like open meetings, similar to the way the BAC works. The BAC does post their agendas publicly just as a courtesy, but they're not recorded, and they don't have to. They do have their own internal structure, so they do approve minutes, but they're not part of the official public record, for example. So that's kind of the idea here. We have the UTC already. We don't really want to replicate it. We just want to create kind of a group that can feed into it.
I haven't been able to read this entire resolution,
Sure.
But safe routes to schools, do you have recommendations to include parent representatives of school-age children? That's a big issue in my neighborhood as we try to build out safe routes to school to Lamar Middle School and other areas.
I think that would be great. I mean, we're not going to dictate a size or number, so anyone would be welcome, and I would certainly hope that folks would come who represent that perspective, safe routes to schools, and if there's a particular neighborhood that's having trouble, I would really hope that they would plug in, but it won't be a limited kind of thing where each council office gets only one person, for example. I think everyone would be.
An interesting statistic you might want to add regarding safe routes to schools, going back to the late 60s, early 70s, 64% of youth walked or biked to school. We're down to 13% now.
Yeah.
So.
What year was that?
I'll email you the statistics, but
great.
it was in the late 1960s. It was over 64% of youth bicycled or walked to school. Now we're down to 13%.
Wow.
And at the same time, childhood obesity rates are extremely high.
Absolutely. I'm sorry.
You want to read the resolution?
Sure. Do you want me to read it?
I think so.
Please.
Okay. And this is just a draft, which I say first of all because there could, be things that need to be fine-tuned, and also because if anyone has any suggestions or input or anything, I would love to hear what you think. Whereas the Imagine Austin Comprehensive Plan, passed in June of 2012, lays out a vision for a compact and connected city, increasing the viability and importance of walking as a mode of transportation. And whereas City Council Resolution 2012-0524-093 called for a regional transportation safety summit, which was held in the fall of 2012 to discuss and make recommendations on transportation safety, which is critical to getting people to switch from single occupancy vehicles to public transit, bicycles, and walking. And whereas the City of Austin held a pedestrian safety action plan workshop in August of 2013 with the Federal Highway Administration and local stakeholders, recommending the creation of a pedestrian advisory council. And whereas on May 3rd, 2013, Scott Bricker of America Walks held a walkability summit in Austin, culminating in a report and laying the groundwork for the reformation of Walk Austin, a pedestrian advisory coalition. And whereas there are a variety of perspectives that are central to pedestrian friendliness, such as urban design, ADA access, transportation, safe routes to school, and others. And whereas the Urban Transportation Commission is the official body charged with reviewing and making recommendations to City Council on transportation issues, including bicycle and pedestrian issues. And whereas the Bicycle Advisory Council A citizen-led organization with a city staff liaison serves an important role as a resource primarily for city staff, but also for city council on issues related to bicycle infrastructure and policy. And whereas the Bicycle Advisory Council staff liaison keeps the body informed, organizes meetings, reserves meeting space, creates agendas, and performs other duties necessary to keep the BAC involved in decision-making related to bicycle infrastructure in Austin. And whereas many U.S. cities, including Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Minneapolis, Portland, and Seattle, have pedestrian advisory councils to provide feedback on pedestrian issues. And whereas the missions of these organizations include serving as a resource to staff and council for questions and concerns regarding pedestrian-related decisions, promoting a safe pedestrian environment, creating an environment conducive to pedestrian activity, improving pedestrian facilities, and making recommendations and providing information on any matter of interest to pedestrians. And whereas the UTC and the BAC took formal action to support the creation of a pedestrian advisory council in Austin, and whereas the UTC, BAC, and the ADA Access and Sidewalk Task Force support formalization of the relationships between their own bodies and the PAC, and whereas the UTC may formalize its relationship with the PAC and the BAC, such as through recognized liaisons by submitting bylaw amendments to the city clerk's office, who would then post the amendments to the City Council Audit and Finance Subcommittee for approval. And whereas the PAC plans to begin holding regular meetings as early as October of 2013, now therefore be it resolved by the Austin City Council that the city manager is directed to assign a staff liaison to the Pedestrian Advisory Council to be responsible for setting and organizing meetings, reserving space, creating agendas, and performing other duties as determined. And be it further resolved that the city manager is directed to work with the Urban Transportation Commission on any bylaw changes needed to facilitate or formalize communication between the bodies or clarify their roles to the public. Of course.
One other question. Do you know who the staff liaison would be? Somebody from I'm assuming it'd be somebody from neighborhood connectivity, but has there been any thought who would be?
I don't, at our level, we don't designate the specific person. We just ask the city manager to make that decision. It seems likely that it could be someone from neighborhood connectivity, although honestly, I think it's kind of an open question at this point, because like we said, there seems to be so much overlap across departments. I think we're open to whatever recommendation he makes.
I don't know that he has the time, but I've always been impressed with the work of Mike Curtis. He's led some excellent pedestrian projects throughout the city, and always keeps accessibility forefront in everything he does.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. And I have talked to him about this too, so I know he's looking forward to, I think, working with these folks. So.
And one question is, have a tie-in with Parks and Recreation at all?
I mean, again, I think that there's definitely a pedestrian focus in parks, and I would hope that parks folks would be involved and would. I mean, I think the idea is that anyone in the city, any department could bring an issue to this group and kind of say, what do you think? This is what we're planning. Do you have any suggestions? And I would really hope parks would be tied in as well. I think that's a good point.
What about, Capital Metro? I mean, it would seem.
Definitely. We've talked to Capital Metro. They're aware that this is forming, and from our perspective, we can't make them join in, but I think that they're interested, and I think they'll be. I know they come to the BAC, for example. They bring items to them, so I would assume they would do the same here.
Any other questions?
What do you need from us? Do you need a vote of support?
I would love to have a vote of support if you want to take one.
I'd make a motion that we support the resolution as written.
Have a second?
I second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thanks so much, and anyone who's interested, of course, in being involved in this forms, please reach out to me and let me know, and I'll keep you aware.
Thank you. And we'll do our next person that signed up for citizen communication, which is Nancy Crowther, and she's a community advocate.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for
letting me come before you to speak. As a community advocate, if I told you what I was really doing, I'd have another half hour on the schedule, but I'm going to just talk about one of my many projects today. I am involved in a project called the Austin Interfaith Inclusion Network. And that is a project with the One Star Foundation that is funded through a grant through the Texas Council on Developmental Disabilities. We are in our second year, second symposium coming up on October 16th at the Dale Jewish Community Center. And I think the uniqueness of this group and this network is that we're bringing all different faiths together, all different disabilities groups and communities together to make sure everybody's included in that faith relationship. I think, as I called it, one of the last frontiers of access is including people with disabilities in that arena. And the nice thing about it is that everybody wants to come together. They just don't know how. So we've developed this network. We put together this toolkit that I believe everybody has a copy of. And these toolkits go to the various churches, synagogues, mosques, whatever, facilities. They go out to different community groups. But they're out there to help the groups get together, be able to work together, be able to communicate together. And it's not a situation where we're recruiting anybody, but it is a natural course in people's lives when they want to develop their spirituality, I guess, and so we want to make sure that's accessible to them also. And I'm really thrilled to see some of the older generation faith leaders out there that actually want to help and want to include people with disabilities more objectively into their services and into their programs. So I would like for everybody to know that we have a free symposium on October 16th at the Dale Jewish Community Center, which is at 7300 Hart Lane in Austin. And if you'd like more information, you can contact onestarfoundation.org and connect to the faith-based project information. We do ask that people try to go ahead and register for that. Amen.
Nancy, your section on accessibility, I haven't had a chance to review this, but does this address digital accessibility or accessibility of worship materials that are in print for people with low vision?
Yes,
Okay, great.
Yes. And the picture is also an old one we borrowed from my days at the transit company.
You worked for a transit company?
In another state.
Okay.
And Ron, I thought the governor tips for engaging people with disabilities. Very thorough.
Thank you. Any questions? Thanks. I'm glad we were able to provide that to you. Thank you, Dolores, for helping me spread the news.
Thank you, Nancy. It's always good to see you.
Good to see you. On to my next project.
All right.
You're the busiest retired person I've ever met.
I know. I'm going to have to retire from retirement.
So the next person that was signed up to speak, our next citizen, is not here. Is there anybody else who's here that would like or has any news to share, would like to sign up for speaking? Yes. Yeah, could you please come up to a microphone?
for me.
Hi, my name is Antoinette Butler. I want to thank you all for allowing me to speak at this time. And I come to share something that I'm really strong and want to address. It's an issue with people with disabilities that we are people that we have a lot of talent, we have a lot of abilities, and along with the disabilities that have been on us for some time. But one of the things that we're facing that I'm not sure everyone is aware of is that we are at the poverty level of what it states for people with that live in poverty. Most of us have a number of hospital bills, medical bills, and other things that we have to address. Not just with our regular things to live with in life. We have our regular bills that we have, but on top of that, we have a lot of hospital bills and things that we have to address. So what I wanted to bring to the table is to make people aware, and mostly people with disabilities, aware that they have within them a seed of greatness that they can use so that we can maximize our potential in becoming entrepreneurs so that we can help ourselves and help others and our families and not to leave a legacy of debt on our people. And so what I wanted to do is find people that will be supportive in helping me to spread the news of making them aware that we can do something. We don't just have to sit back and lay in bed, because most of the time I'm in bed. I've been in the hospital over 40 times in the last 6 years. And I have ideas that go through my mind all the time. And I'm sure some of them have the same kind of things. And I just want to make them aware of the resources that are available and that we can do something. We are able. People with disabilities are able. And that able means abilities beyond life's expectations. Life thinks that we should just sit back, let everybody take care of us. But I want to show people that not only can we help assist in the taking care of ourselves, because we have a mind, and I may not be able to walk or do other things that other people do, but if I get the right support, I can do something. And so I wanted to make people aware of that, and I need support in making it happen. I'm trying to start my own business now. I am at the beginning stages of it because I don't want to leave my family with all these bills. I don't want to do that. But at the same time, it's just still part of my dream. And I'm sure other people have dreams that they would love to accomplish, but just don't know how to go about doing it. So this is what I want to be able to share with people, make people aware, and then show them the resources that are available. And if the city or any other organizations are willing to help assist them, because we're not looking for, what I'm saying is, we're not looking for a handout. We're just looking for support and a helping hand to move forward in life. I heard that word earlier today about moving forward. I want to move forward. And if other people heard it, they will want to move forward too. So I want to thank you for allowing me this time to share that with you.
Well, thank you. And Ron?
Yeah, ma'am, I'd just like to offer two suggestions. One, our state's vocational rehabilitation agency, DARS, does help people with disabilities who are interested in going to work or starting their own business with developing an individual plan for employment that can include self-employment as an outcome. They help with business plan. If free market financing is not available, they can step in and look at assisting with startup costs for a business. So the first step would be applying for vocational rehabilitation services with DARS, which is the Department of Assistive and Rehabilitative Services. The second thing I'd like to offer is the motivation of this committee. This committee supports entrepreneurship and free enterprise through our Employment Awards program, which is coming up at the end of October. We have an entrepreneurship award This award goes to an individual with a disability that's running their own business, and that individual serves as a role model for other entrepreneurs with disabilities. So if you could help us get nominations for the Entrepreneurship Award, we'd be grateful for your help. The nomination form is at cityofaustin.gov/ADA.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
And then I think that I'd like to. What is your small business? What are you trying to?
Okay, the name of it is Vision Quest MP. MP stands for Maximum Potential. I want to help people find out their maximum potential in reaching their goals and dreams. And it involves personal development and speaking with them, coaching, and just guiding them along the way to show them how they can get there.
You may be interested in contacting one of our partners, VSA Texas. VSA Texas. They're an art organization that provides accessibility to the arts for people with disabilities. And they actually have a new grant project you might want to volunteer on called Open Minds, Open Doors. And it's encouraging people with disabilities and participants to tell their own stories and become public speakers.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the professional development piece that you're wanting to do might fit into that. So you may want to contact them at vsatexas.org.
Okay.
Or you can get my contact information after the meeting. And
yeah, I would like to do that. Thank you.
Great.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you very much, Ms. Butler.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
And our presenter is still not here, so we will move on to our subcommittee reports.
Okay.
Yep. Tanya?
I don't have an access. I don't have anything to add with my access report this month.
We sent the letters out.
Other than we did send the letters out for the Austin Access Awards. So that's pretty much all wrapped up. And then I don't know, Kathy, if you have a DMD update.
Sure. We had two matching meetings the last couple of weeks for DMD, and the work group worked to put together all the student names with all the possible mentors, and it looks like we're going to have maybe 90 to 100 mentees participating in this year's event. We'll be getting out the acceptance packets this week, and we'll have a meeting next week on the 25th.
And then I was just interested in hoping that Boone was going to be here for the Capital Metro update, but he's not.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Kathy.
If Boone doesn't arrive, I've consumed his materials. I think we all have, and I've written out a resolution in case we want to take that up under new business.
Okay. Well, Ron, you're up next for Employment and Awards.
Thank you. The Employment Awards Committee met on Friday for a brief update on getting nominations. We've asked the members of the committee to press their contacts for more nominations. We have very few at this point. That's not uncommon, but we're rapidly approaching the deadline. And so if you have a past action item from the meeting to contact Easter Seals, Goodwill, DARS, whatever organization that you were assigned to contact. At this point, we're beyond emails. We're now into phone calls and just contacting individuals and asking them to make nominations. As I said with our last citizen communication, the address for getting to the nomination form is cityofaustin.gov/ADA, and then look for the heading for Employment Awards, and underneath there should be a link to the nominations form.
Ron, look for the heading that says Mayor's Committee Activities,
and then under that. Okay. So under Mayor's Committee Activities, there's a link to the Employment Awards form. Truly, the form only takes about 15 minutes to fill out. If you give a little bit more thought to the narrative, writing up why this person is worthy of an award, it increases the chances for them to be selected by the judges. Just a couple of examples of award categories that we have. We have the large employer of the year, both in the public sector and private sector, medium employer, and small employer. And the size of the number of employees determines what category they fall in. If you're not sure, you can give us a call and we can try to help point you to the right category. As I mentioned, we have an entrepreneur award. We also have a media award. This would go to a print or broadcast journalist or media outlet for their accurate and positive depiction of people with disabilities in the media. So if you know of a reporter that's done a great story this past year, worthy of recognition, I encourage you to nominate that media outlet or reporter and also the specific story that they're being recognized. Finally, we have Distinguished Service Awards for community volunteers, and I think one of the most important awards is kind of a Lifetime Achievement Award. We call it the Martha Arbuckle Award. That's the award that's named in honor of the first chairperson of the Austin Mayor's Committee for People with Disabilities, and it's for an individual that's demonstrated a lifetime commitment throughout their career, either in service or volunteer service to improving the lives of people with disabilities. So, guys, I need your help. Let's start making some nominations.
I'll make one later this afternoon.
Thank you.
Ron, two questions. Could you give the deadline again, cutoff date?
September 27th. I was about to say 28th. September 27th. We'd rather not extend the deadline.
I understand. And could you give us whoever might be viewing a telephone number in case they can need a phone for information?
Dolores, you mind if we give out?
My number is area code 512-974-3256.
Truly, the people that get these awards at our awards program, they're presented by usually the mayor or a senior member of city staff, and they're recognized in front of several hundred people at a nice awards presentation at the Crown Plaza Hotel, and they truly feel honored. It's a great way to thank somebody that's been doing a good job. So that should be an easy thing to want to recognize people that have been doing a good job.
Hey, Ron, is there a list online of people who have won these awards in the past?
Yeah, we have the Hall of Honor, and it should have all of our award winners going back over 30 years with just a few gaps where somehow we missed recording the history of those. And that's on the same City of Austin website, cityofAustin.gov/ADA. And Dolores, the specific heading that would be under would
I think it says history of past winners.
Okay. If organization hasn't been recognized in over 5 years, it might be worth recognizing them again. Generally, it's staff turnover, new management. Also, we tend to recognize, for example, in the past, Randall's has been recognized at a specific location, or Taco Cabana, and we are recognizing them for that location. If there's another location that hasn't been recognized, then they're meritorious and deserving of recognition for employing people with disabilities. Feel free to consider the specific location. That's all I have.
Okay, Ron, well, I'm going to move us up to new business, even though we don't have a presenter, but give you the opportunity to talk about the Capital Metro issue that Boone was going to speak to us about.
A few weeks ago, I received an email from Capital Metro talking about fare increases. I possibly received that because I'm signed up through Capital Metro with Metro Access, and I get regular updates. Before this meeting, all of the commissioners received a email briefing from Boone Blocker, who's the chairman of the Access Subcommittee for Capital Metro. The Access Subcommittee gives input to Capital Metro on their paratransit program, and also accessibility issues related to bus travel. And
Ron, do you want me to read that?
Yeah, I'm going to pass this to Dolores to read. I had another thought, so I wrote the preamble of my whereas resolution on the back. After you read the first two paragraphs, flip it over and read from the top down. essentially, a Capital Metro hired consulting group to look at raising fares. And the bottom line, I believe that the fare increase that they're proposing for passengers with disabilities is disproportionately high compared to where they're looking to raise fares for other passengers. So give it a read, and then we can discuss it.
Okay, whereas the consultant hired by Capital Metro to look at
Are you
fair...
starting on the back?
Yes. Oh, you want me to start in the front?
The handwritten part first, please.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas Capital Metro regards the Mayor's Committee for People with Disabilities as an important community stakeholder for transportation issues affecting passengers with disabilities, and whereas the City Council has 2 board appointments to the Capital Metro Board, and whereas the consultant hired by Capital Metro to look at fare restructuring did not present information at an Access Advisory Committee meeting or contact its members to gather feedback from the community members and the wide swath of citizens we represent, whereas the proposed elimination of the reduced fare day pass will adversely affect an already hurting customer base. Many of these riders simply do not have the upfront resources to purchase a reduced fare 7-day pass or 31-day pass, whereas the fare increase percentage for Metro Access riders, 50%, is much higher than fixed route riders, 25%, placing an unfair increase on passengers with disabilities. Whereas in recent years, the Metro Access fare for paratransit ride tickets has increased 100%, whereas increasing the contribution to the Basic Transportation Needs Fund is worthy of consideration. Many low-income customers are not connected with the necessary nonprofits to receive the discounted tickets. Whereas the funding in the fiscal year 2014 budget for comprehensive customer satisfaction survey of Capital Metro Access riders, therefore be it resolved that the Austin Mayor's Committee recommends that Capital Metro freeze fixed route and Metro Access fares for passengers with disabilities to allow the true impact to these low-income customers to be calculated while the survey is being completed.
And probably a little bit of additional wordsmithing is warranted, but it captures the essence of what Boone was going to present and what I believe is the core issue.
Aren't they voting today on proposed fare changes?
I thought.
I don't have the voting day. What is the Capital Metro Board meeting date? Do you know?
There's one today.
Yeah, there's one today because the news talked about
I'd
it.
be glad to email this to you, Dolores, and if we pass the resolution, get it to Councilmember Riley and Martinez's office. Those are the 2 council members that sit on the Capital Metro Board. Whether they take action or consider our input.
You know, we have a new system for putting recommendations. I can do that.
Okay. If we could just expedite it through the new system.
Right.
Ron, you mentioned 25% increase on fixed route versus 50% increase on Metro Access. Do you know what the increase would from light rail, Metro Rail?
I do not know.
I'm very interested. I want to find that out.
Yeah, I'd like to just have more information on.
But I'd like to propose it.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with you, Ron. I'm just saying, in general, I'd like to have more facts to sort of compare, more history. Because it seems strange to me that you know, there's a big push right now to make Austin, you know, more pedestrian friendly, you know, increasing public transportation, yet people with disabilities are just, you know, seem to be getting the brunt of what's happening here, you know, and I worry, you know, I worry a lot.
I understand your need for additional facts, and ordinarily I'd celebrate hitting the big pause button on this resolution until next month, but I think if what I hear is correct and the board is voting on this fare increase today, expediency is critical. Therefore, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to vote on adopting the resolution as written with minor wordsmithing corrections.
as a formal recommendation to council.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And we need to have any discussion?
Point of information. I think I heard that this vote is taking place this afternoon.
Okay. Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So it passes unanimously.
Okay. Following this meeting, I'll get a digital copy over to Dolores to run through the formal process as quickly as we can.
Okay.
Appreciate it, Ron, very much.
Yes, thank you. And we are down to our staff briefing.
Did we have, were we supposed to have Travis County here today?
Yes,
okay.
but we
Yeah.
do not have anybody here today.
Okay.
She confirmed with me when we first asked her, and then I sent her the agenda. I didn't hear from her back.
The bottom line, though, is the information that Chip shared with us before. This has to do with voter ID. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And the big thing there is to match your Texas ID with your name on the voter ID, and you can have time to change your voter registration card now prior to the election, but it's going to be done within the next week.
Well, October the 7th.
That's correct. Sorry, October 7th. Right.
And one note of precaution that in a lot of the publications it gives the 7 kind that are acceptable. It doesn't point out that a non-acceptable one is a student ID, like if you're out of town and going to college. Those aren't acceptable.
And I just hope there's a push that assists people living in state-supported living centers to know this information and have access to changing their cards and updating their information.
So if somebody were attending college here in Austin and their address on their ID or license showed another city, but they registered here but didn't go to the Department of Public Safety to get their address on their ID changed, they would be ineligible to vote, or would it be a provisional ballot where
Provisional.
Okay.
Provisional.
So the vote would not be thrown out, it would just have to be verified.
Correct. And I think Travis County is going out of their way to be accepting of some variances, but who knows about outside of Travis County? I think it can be potentially harmful.
We've seen that in many elections, just a few votes matter.
It'll have an impact, significant impact.
Yeah, especially the people who are living in state-supported living centers, where the push to vote is already low as it is, because transportation and whatnot is already difficult, and then you add another thing.
So should we try to get her for the next meeting?
It'll be past the deadline.
It'll be past the deadline.
It's true.
Yeah.
Correct.
I believe we had an emergency management presentation that was tabled.
Yeah.
We might want to revisit that for next month.
Yeah, I have that.
When we do open forum, I have some emergency management issues to share as chair of the Texas Disabilities Task Force on Emergency Management.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and go with my report. We don't have any changes in our budget. We still have the $6,105. I wanted to tell you that I was invited to participate as a judge for the Work-Based Learning Program Leadership Institute that she told us about last year. Mm-hmm. It's a program that's a separate program from the employment program, but I'm not exactly sure how it works. But I participated in judging 3 different groups that presented like marketing products, and what they did is they had these very sophisticated PowerPoint presentations. They had skits. They did some rapping, some dancing interspersed with facts. It was very creative with humor. It was very well done, and it was very difficult to pick a winner. Mm-hmm. But it was a really good experience. that I enjoyed. Just a little update on the pedestrian safety action plan workshop that I attended. This is a part of an effort for us to create our city and region to be safer for pedestrians. And I have to say that I learned a lot more than I really wanted to learn about pedestrian stuff, pedestrian signals, traffic calming devices, all kinds of stuff. We spent a whole day on that. But the last day of the workshop, we worked on drafting the plan for the pedestrian safety. And there are opportunities for stakeholders to have input, and I added the committee as a stakeholder. And then we will be participating in several more meetings to fine-tune our plan. I'll keep you posted. We don't have any plans actually set up yet. And part of your packet that I gave you has the information for the CTD Film Festival and the pen-to-pen contest. And so there's flyers about that in your packets.
One thing to point out on the calendar minutes from last month that had the CTD Film Festival being still in October. As far as I know, the November 1 and 2 are now the correct
October
dates.
now?
Huh?
It's not in October now?
No, and you can even see it on the front page of the...
What's it? Oh, okay. I'll change that. Thank you.
Okay, and does anybody have an opportunity to add to our calendar? Chip, start with these.
I have none, thank you.
No items?
One point of conflict isn't necessarily a bad thing here, but the inclusion thing, the interfaith inclusion that Nancy was talking about, is the same day as Disability Mentoring Day.
Yeah.
Greg, would you like to add anything? Adam,
Thank you.
Yeah, if I can, I'm not sure if this is on or not, but something that various groups in the community are working on now is the ACA that's coming up October 1st and lasting for 6 months for enrollment in the Affordable Care Act. And some groups are debating and deciding how to go ahead and approach the market segments that may not ordinarily receive that information, whether it's physical impairments or disabilities or mental disabilities. So I know that Austin Travis County Integral Care is having a meeting about this tomorrow, and I know that a local mental health authority that's on that end. I'm wondering if there's a need at all for any kind of outreach to the other populace in disability arena in order to get them involved and make sure that they're at least educated and aware and perhaps how to enroll within the insurance marketplaces that are coming about.
How do they enroll?
Well, there are a multitude of ways to do that. Certainly, ATCAC, even though it's a mental health organization, I'm sure they'd be willing to participate if they're engaged. There are other groups, Foundation Communities, who does a lot of work with folks with physical disabilities, is also taking a lot of their tax personnel and teaching them new skills for enrollment into the insurance marketplaces. So that might be an outreach that could be done. And I can certainly find out from some others. If there was a consensus or an interest that this is something that's worthwhile for the market.
Are there any upcoming planned webinars or television spots to highlight this information and where people can go for additional information that you know?
Yeah, there's a slew. There's some that's sponsored by the National Council. There's some that's sponsored by Dishes. We have, I believe, Central Health, which is doing some as well. There was a grant that Travis County was hoping to get. It actually went to Bexar or Bear County instead, and it would have allowed a lot of money to flow in to webinars and to more community activity. It hasn't happened. We didn't get that grant, but a lot of entities are still stepping up to the plate, which I think is great. And I think all it might need is a phone call or an email to say, hey, do you also want to reach out to A location, B location, C location, to make sure that many people are informed as possible. And we had a speaker earlier on who has a lot of medical expenses. To me, that's someone who's a prime target for this type of information to go into the insurance marketplaces and be informed as to what the options are and where the maximum benefit in terms of reimbursement for expenses might be.
Right.
Well, I think you are already raising awareness by raising this topic here with Channel 6 broadcasting this meeting. I understand during the enrollment for the Affordable Care Act, this year it's a longer enrollment period than in future years. And so we actually have time to schedule a speaker to just talk about the Affordable Care Act if we can find an appropriate speaker. They were doing Q&A on NPR this morning about the Affordable Care Act. I just don't recall the website where most citizens can go to look at the marketplace because I have insurance. But I know this is going to be an important opportunity for people that are uninsured or underinsured.
So is that also part of our future agenda item recommendation?
It could be.
Put it down. And Adam, if whenever you get concrete information about that, I'm happy to pass it on. You send it over to me.
Yeah, I'll be glad to put a list of resources together,
Yeah, excellent.
as well as potential speakers.
That'd be great.
I'll forward it on to Dolores. Sure.
Great. Thank you.
And just one question, what was the enrollment date extended to open enrollment?
It was supposed to be a 6-month enrollment period. I don't recall when it ends. I think it starts October and runs 6 months.
Everybody had to be enrolled by January.
October, November, December, January, maybe 4 months.
It is actually from October 1st to March 31st.
Okay, so it's 6 months this year.
Yeah, it is 6 months, and then if you exceed that deadline, then you face a potential penalty in 2014. If you're not in the insurance marketplace, there's a penalty. As maybe some of you are aware, if you're not in an insurance marketplace or otherwise insured, or where you stand on a poverty line, you have a certain amount of a penalty for not being insured.
Yeah, we'd like to promote that information.
Thank you, Adam. Ron, anything else to add?
If this is open forum, I just wanted to mention, as the chair of the Texas Disability Task Force on Emergency Management, we're working with different stakeholder groups to help at the state level and local level with emergency preparedness, response, and recovery to include preparedness plans and response and recovery plans that include the needs of people with disabilities or functional needs. One timely issue that's coming up is the creation of a state of Texas emergency assistance registry. This is a volunteer registry for people with disabilities or people with possible other transportation barriers who can call 211. That's the local phone number for information and referral, and register in what they're calling the STEAR, S-T-E-A-R. This is obviously more critical during hurricane season for people that live along the Texas Gulf Coast, but in other areas of the state, looking at other potential disaster scenarios, whether it be wildfires in western Travis County or a train derailment that might have toxic waste spill, or even pandemic flu and sheltering in place. The STEER registry doesn't promise a specific benefit. That depends on the data custodian for your local jurisdiction, but based on how each jurisdiction uses the STEER, it may be that you're contacted for assistance in evacuating from an area, or you're listed as somebody who has a high need for uninterrupted power due to having medical equipment that can't lose power. So one of the issues we'll want to talk about with Travis County at a future meeting when our local emergency managers from the city of Austin or Travis County come is, do we have a STEER data custodian set up to take the data and plan what they're going to do with it? Right now, as the marketing happens all over the state, not every county or jurisdiction has a data custodian. So people may be signing up and their data is being held, but the local jurisdiction is not doing anything with it. Once again, though, this is voluntary. If a person with a disability does not want to sign up, they don't have to.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay, I have a couple of things. Just wanted to inform everybody that the next Body Shift Performance Workshop will be performing on September the 28th at 7 p.m. And we will be performing on the Pflugerville Bridge, which is on South Lamar. It's called Bridging the Gap, and it starts at 7. It's an on-site performance. And Body Shift is a collaboration between VSA Texas and Forklift Dance Works that provides people with and without disabilities who are interested in exploring movement a space to do that. So,
On a bridge?
Yes, on a bridge.
This isn't a flash mob, is it?
It's not exactly a flash mob. We will be there for about 40 minutes. So please come out if you have time. Also, Forklift Dance Works is having another performance this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, which is free. It's called Power Up, and it's with Austin Energy workers, and it is out at the Travis County Expo Center. It is free, but you do need to make reservations to participate. So contact forklift.org if you're interested in going to that. And just as another potential speaker, and probably low man on the totem pole, I would really like to hear from the Architectural Barrier Removal Program, because to my knowledge, their funding is at zero, and I was just kind of wondering if that funding was going to be changed in the near future.
They just passed the budget.
Yeah, that's
They might have new
kind of
money.
what
They might have new money.
I'm wondering how much and when, where to apply, all those kinds of things.
Okay. Got it done.
Thanks.
Kathy?
Nothing, thank you.
I just want to run down the stuff that I do have, which is that our final meetings for the Disability Mentoring Day are going to be September the 24th and October the 8th. We have October the 3rd, we have a Disability Mentoring Day proclamation at City Council Chambers at 5:30. And then I now have new dates for the CTV Film Festival that I have the wrong dates there. November 1, November 2. Going back to October, White Cane Day will be on the 15th of October. Disability Mentoring Day will be the 16th of October at the Goodwill Community Center. And our awards program, Disability and Employment Awards program, will be October the 28th, and it'll be at the Crown Plaza at 6121 North IH 35.
I do have one question. Is the next DMD meeting on the 24th or 25th?
25th.
What you told me earlier.
Okay. I'll send some information.
Okay.
I have 24th here, but I'll make sure you get the right information.
Okie dokie.
The 25th would be Wednesday.
Oh, also at both times.
And I have nothing new to add. And that gets us to adjournment.
Can I just say one more thing really quick? I might not have said, but if you're interested in coming to the Bridging the Gap performance, it is free, and you should contact VSA Texas for more information. VSATexas.org. Thanks.
Okay, we're at adjournment. You have a motion?
I'd like the motion to adjourn.
I'd like to adjourn.
Have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you again for your time, and see you again next month.
I do have one question. Does anyone know where I can get one of these I Love Texas Willies?
To give love and when it goes out of the